Hey everyone, this is Joanna the Portal, and today I'm meeting with Elsie Guerrero,
Yes.
right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we're doing a brief interview with her for Latina Voice, again, to talk about our ethnicity, the things that we go through as Latinas. Elsie is an author, a very well-known author, over 12 children's book, and she's going to review some of her books right now and talk about them. She also has a movement that is called, I'm sorry, Promote Inclusion, right?
Yes.
Promote Inclusion, and she's also the founder for Advancing Latinas into Leadership.
Yes.
Okay, so Elsie, tell me just a little bit about yourself and tell me why you decided to kind of share who you are and your story with Latina Voice.
So again, thanks for having me. My name's Elsie, and I am a children's book author, and I also am the founder of a nonprofit called Advancing Latinas into Leadership, an organization that mentors high school Latinas and prepare them for their life upon graduation. And so it's so dear to me to help the next generation and just to help my people, Latinas, because I have my story. I didn't have it really easy, coming from a single parent household. Um, my mom, migrating here from El Salvador. So because of my journey, I always said to myself, the moment I become successful, I want to be able to pave and help the next generation and give them advice and be a mentor or someone to reach out to and guidance. I've done it all. I know we just talked about children's books and my mentoring program, but I also have a law degree. I also work. I also have 2 masters, so I've done the whole journey of education, being the first in my family to graduate from college, and actually to enroll, and the only one in my family to obtain higher education, higher education. I have 2 businesses that are very different, one being a demand of services and then another one of, providing services. And so just through my journeys and obstacles, I always, want to share my way so others people don't make the mistakes that I've made.
And could you kind of tell us, like I could relate to you because we're always talking about like obstacles, the things that we have to go through. But what were the obstacles specific for you? Like the ones that you had to kind of personally encounter and kind of overcome?
It could also, I mean, it could start all the way from undergrad, being the first in my family to go away to college. I know I remember my mom not wanting me to go to college because she
Mhm.
thought that I was trying to leave her. And I was like, no, I want to go and do something different. I want to, my teachers are telling me I should go to college. So that itself was a journey and, learning how to be on your own. And I worked 3 jobs and going to school at the same time. I also didn't have enough money. I remember selling my car to pay tuition. I didn't think about tuition. I was so excited to go away to college. I didn't think about tuition. And then also, the recession. So I went to school in during the recession in 08, 09 undergrad, not having enough money, not having enough for rent, sleeping in my car, and transferring schools and just moving back home. Luckily, we had there was a college at my home, in my hometown. So transferring my senior year in college, and thankfully I didn't give up. Other people would give up. I can tell you, I can't remember exactly the percentage of how many students actually ended up dropping out and not going back after the recession. It was a really hard hit for many people. I know my mom was on the verge of losing her home and she couldn't help me. And so just all those obstacles we had. And I still, went ahead and graduated. And not only did I graduate, I was like, I'm gonna go for a master's. And so, learning about that. And then even with my businesses, like my children's book, like the purpose of why I wanted to write my first book, and then all the challenges I had. I was with a publishing company and they didn't really perform well. So I, getting out of that contract
Yeah.
and then moving on to another publishing company, and then the publishing company going bankrupt. And then going to my third publishing company. I did 3 publishing company. The third publishing company, pretty much taking all my money. My first paycheck was like $2.95. I was like, oh my God,
Oh,
like
wow.
finally. So, thankfully I participated in a woman entrepreneur academy, and they were like, you know what, you got to start your own publishing company. And it was never in my mind. Like when I was in college, I said I was going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be, a fashion designer. I never thought about being an author or starting my own company, let alone starting the mentoring program. We're gonna get with that
Yeah.
that very soon. But then I ended up starting my own publishing company, and then in 2008. So it's almost 3 years, 3 years of being on my own as a own, and that was its own journey. But thankfully, there was resources out there that I was a pro bono client, so being getting that assistance and being established, and then getting out of my contract and getting on my books, but not giving up. So the point to the children's books were all inspired by real children I worked with. So it just kept me going. I never really gave up, even through the three obstacle of, the first children's book not being the way I wanted it to look. Um,
But tell us a little bit about the book. So I know that, you work in inclusion and disability. So I know for children that's something that could be so helpful for kids with disabilities, right?
yeah,
So,
I really wish I could like go grab my books and show you. But since we're recording right now, I can't go grab them. I should have grabbed them and showed them to you. So I used to work with children with special needs. I did that for 7 years. It was my first job right out of graduation. And I was working in the autism school as well as in the public school, in the special education classroom, and in their homes. And how it was inspired was that I had a student who was in public school. So how it worked was that they were in an autism school, and what we were working was helping them to be mainstream, to get them into public school. So once we get them in public school, we shadow them, we help them. We're still like their aid until we feel comfortable letting them go. So my student, was playing in recess, and one of the students um, just approached me and said, "Hey, why is your student acting this way?" And I just kept seeing faces of other children who were not disabled looking at like my students as they were strange. So I went to the library to see if I can find a book to kind of educate them, or like give them a book to reference, like, hey, you should go read this book, right? And there wasn't any at the time, there wasn't any books. And this was back in 2013, I want to say. Because I published my first book in 2015. And so and I also did my first master's on how prepared teachers are to work with children with special needs. So just seeing that there was such a lack of awareness, lack of compassion, or just just a misinterpretation. I decided to write my first book based on that scenario of what happened to me during recess. So my first book, How Emily and Eli Became Friends, is based on that situation. Emily is a mixture of many of the students that I worked with in the past. So it kind of gives a narrative of the different characteristics of someone who would have autism. And Eli was the student who was asking questions, or, you know, and then it just kind of brings it into a story of like, oh, you're not different. You're just unique. We're going to embrace, let's be friends. So it's just more of embracing. And that one book, I had that one book for a while, and then I ended up, meeting other people. I had a colleague who had cerebral palsy, and he shared his story about, being bullied. And so I Am Unique is about him, but due to confidentiality, he didn't want to be, he didn't want people to know it was about him. I changed the gender and the name and made it a little different. But that one's based on him. And then dyslexia, I did Dancing Luna, which was on dyslexia. And then Goodbye Long Hair is about cancer. So the students who do give me, like the children who do give me permission, like their parents, I do I do put their pictures in the back of the book. So yeah, one book led to two, three, and now I have 30 books on hold. I mean, I've written 30 books, but I've only published 12. um, pandemic, unfortunately, I didn't have my book tour that I wanted. Book sales have been on a decline, but they're still there.
Yeah.
you know, um, they're still there. In 2018, I started writing about. I published my first my books about like social issues and things like that. So I did. Those are also based on real children. Um, and so yeah, it just kind of happened unintentionally, and I got inspired, and it's really rewarding and welcoming to like I've done 2 book tours, so I've read all over the United States, from Kentucky to California to DC to Texas,
Wow.
like so different dynamics, different groups, different children's and they're very, you get inspired, when they can relate to the books, they'll share their stories with you.
Damn.
They've also helped me with editing my books. I've The cool thing about having my own publishing company is that I can go back and edit my book. So if you bought my book in 2015, it's not the same as it is today, because I've done some tweaking of
Yeah.
learning how to read at an age level. But yeah, it just they keep me going. It's a hobby that I hope to continue, and hopefully I'll be able to publish these other new books. I do have 3 books that I plan on releasing. One of them I'll be releasing um, in next month, April. I'm like,
Oh,
I did April. That book is actually a book that I work with my students with advancing Latinas into leadership. We work high school girls. I can actually, it's a draft. It's not the official one, but I will give you a peek of what it will look like. You can see it.
oh wow, that's a nice cover.
So it's
With it all
50.
sass.
Yes. So this one, since we're talking about Latina voices, I'll just you hear it. You're the first to hear it because we weren't going to share it.
Oh wow,
But,
I'm so excited. I'm so honored. Thank you.
thank you. So this is based on 50 Latinas, famous and non-famous Latinas. So Latinas making a difference. So it's shifting the narrative of what it means to be a leader. Because oftentimes, and this is not to put anyone down, when we think of Latina leaders, we always do the same ones. Sonia Sotomayor, which, yes, I
Yeah,
love you, paving the way, being the first judge. We have Selena, the queen of,
yeah,
Tejano music. We have the first U.S. Senator, Catherine Mesa. We have Dolores Huerta. We look at the same ones, but what about Latinas who aren't in politics and law? What about them? So this book highlights those people, and then Selena too. It has Selena who does music, but it highlights Afro Latinas, LGBTQ, Latinas that are not just Puerto Rican and Mexicans. I have to say, I love it. They paved the way. They're the first. But, one thing I know working in DC, Washington, DC, a lot of our Latinos, our students are actually Dominican or Salvadorian, Honduran, Guatemalan. So we make sure we found a leader, even if they're not in the United States, what
yeah,
they are. We did local leaders. We did the first we did a pilot. We did a surgeon. So it's 50 Latinas making a difference. They're powerful. They're famous and non-famous. I don't know, we don't call it like that. But
yeah.
just trying to highlight to you, and then they learn about these leaders. We put it together, and so it's been a project that we've been working on for 3 years. This is the third class to work on it. It's just, hopefully this is a curriculum, moving forward, them learning about nurses, doctors, teachers, engineers, because we're all leaders in our own ways.
Right.
um,
And we were
so
just talking about that, like, we get into these positions, right? Or we gain this education, and then when we encounter mainstream, there's this kind of unacceptance or shock value, have you, and where, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or I didn't know that you had those degrees. And And I know you encounter some of that stuff yourself, right? So
Yeah.
getting into your books, and did you incorporate any of those experiences in your books as well?
Um, no, I do have a book that I will be releasing this fall called I'm Never Taking My Crown Off Again. And that one is based on me, and it's more about mental health and positive affirmation. Um just showing people, showing the community, like, we're all going to have obstacles. There's always going to be somebody out there, like, who's going to put you down. Like, I remember 2 years ago, this woman told me I will never amount to anything. She didn't know me, but I had made a comment and it didn't sit well with her. I had no ill intentions, but because of what I said, she said I will never amount to anything, not knowing me. Even going to high school, like, being teased. I was teased in high school as well. And just seeing where I'm at, yeah, sometimes those hurtful thoughts, those things that people say to you actually really hurt your feelings. And then you tend to have doubt on yourself. I would say, for me, uh I've had it. I tend to learn things the hard way. I don't know. But most of my books are about children with disability, and then social issues and dynamic, not so much about me. And I know that it's something that a lot of people have requested. I have scoliosis, and I did do a book about scoliosis. But I think, for this trajectory on my next movement of my books, I'm going to do about mental health. And so I will be releasing that book called Never Taking My Crown Off Again, as a way of showing that, we are empowering, we all are included, we can be whatever we want to be. And so that one was something that I kind of feel like others can relate to.
No, I totally love that idea because I'm working on a mental health project right now coming from microaggressions, right? So one of the things that you said is like you were being teased when you were in high school. This person said this comment to you saying that you were not going to amount to anything. And one of the things that we keep seeing more and more is that these micro insults, they become like real trauma for us. We
Yeah.
keep those things, like I was telling you earlier that, you know, people have this view of me. And then when I talk or speak with my heavy accent, I remember one time in college, somebody telling me, my mentor telling me that I had to change the way that I spoke. And to me, I couldn't figure what that meant. Like, what did you mean? Like, what is it that I needed to change? And now when I'm doing public speaking, that little voice in my head always kind of rings out, asking me, are you really talking the way you're supposed to be talking? And I'm not cursing, I'm not saying anything, it's just my accent, it's just the way I speak. But those micro insults, microaggressions, that becomes a real trauma for us. And the mental health issue, that component really needs to be addressed at this point, you know?
Yes. And then it's also, and it's kind of where I kind of got the promote inclusion. I think instead of trying to change us, just include us. And I think that's how I ended up having so many books, because I never in a million years thought I would be writing children's book. But we tend to force people to change instead of just accepting us for who we are. Why do we have to feel like there's something wrong with us? I mean, I was just telling myself the other day, I think that I would have been in a different position in my life if I didn't allow the noise to determine who I was or who I am. And if I would have just stayed true to who I was and stopped changing myself, then I would have,
Yeah,
been in a different place in my life. But we're always going to have those, and I think that's why I have like the mentoring program. And if a door closes, keep going. Don't just stop and give up. There's so many people that give up. I know I went to uh I grew up in a low income area, so I
yeah,
remember, I'm actually in California right now, but I remember hanging out with a high school friend who I haven't seen in now you're gonna know my age. I graduated high school 14 years ago.
yeah.
So
You're still younger than me, okay?
but I remember having coffee with him last summer when I came back to California. and him telling me that I'm the most successful person he's ever met in his life. And so it's like, wow, um, so it's just interesting to see that if we mold our community to know that that their environment doesn't define who they are,
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
can be whoever they want to be. Yes, it's going to be hard. Did I like sleeping in my car? No. Did I like being in financial debt? No. Did I like working at Burger King? No. But you know what? I didn't end in Burger King,
Yeah, no, you
Uh,
have to do what you have to do.
gotta do what you gotta do. I worked 3 jobs in undergrad. I worked like at a restaurant, retail stores, and retail stores at that time was like $6.75 an hour. You know, and we get there. I did internships. I worked for free, lived off my credit cards. I did, we but it's all part of our testimonies, like part of our story, like to
Yeah.
see where you're at to where you're at. Like even my
Yeah, it makes
nonprofit,
this, those experiences makes us who we are today, so
exactly.
like I had a lot of
Um,
hardships too, but thinking about it now, like I would never change any of them because then I wouldn't be here today.
right. And it makes you more humble. It makes you more appreciative. I mean, like I think my relationship with my mother is a lot better now than it was when
Yeah,
I was younger. I had to say, I don't know, just growing up in a single parent household, not having a father, my mom having to raise 4 kids on her own, and it's just like, being limited because she had to work day and night.
yeah,
So but thankfully I had everything, but I felt like it wasn't enough. And then to be in a position where you're like, okay, I get it, you know but it's just, our story is our story, and we should embrace it. I think that's one of the things that people, I think, have a challenge sometimes, is embracing who they are and just loving who you are, and knowing that where you are right now, if that's not where you want to be, then keep pushing. A door will open, or create your own door. I created my own business.
yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It's like I come along, with the other young ladies, and we get into this dialogue, and some of them still are very afraid to share their stories. There's this fear of backlash, backlash from mainstream specifically, you know. But I know that right now you share me your story, you're brave in your voice, because a lot of Latinas are still not up to that point yet. And I think that the work that we do, we're trying to motivate them to get them there, because I think it is so important. And the work that you're doing is so important right now.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's kind of where the mentoring program happened. So like 4 5 years, we're almost 5 years in. I went to DC, and I always said to myself, the moment I become successful, I want to help the next generation because of all of what I went through. If I can make it, anybody can. And I ended up volunteering at a high school, helping Latinas. And 1 year of just volunteering, the school was like, we like what you're doing, come back. And I ended up starting a nonprofit. And yesterday we had our retreat, and just to see where we're at, like we're 5 years in, 100% volunteer led.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you. We're like, we're all here to pave the way and helping the next generation. And it's all about just helping mold them, give them, inspire them, connect them with Latinas who do have the professions they have, help them with their resources, get them into college or get them into, good jobs, connecting them, and just changing the narrative of what people think um, we're supposed to be,
Yep.
and we can be
Nicely
more.
said.
Yeah.
If there's one message that you would like for other Latinas to know or realize, what would it be?
um don't give up on your dream. No dream is small. And patience is, with patience and passion, it'll come true.
Anything else you want to share before we end?
um no, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you decided to share your story, share your voice with us. I'm hoping to hear lots more from you. I mean, you're doing amazing things, and I'm so grateful to you for that.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
But yes, thank you for having us again. This is Elsie Guerrero, sharing her voice with Latina Voice. And thank you.
Thank you.